Are we on? Are we on? Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding. And oh boy, we have a very, very, very special guest. This basketball head is a legendary coach. Listen, y'all, I'm talking about one of the top coaches in the country. And you'll understand why once I do my introduction. He has to be one of my top 3 coaches of all time. And only 2 of those coaches are basketball coaches. One is a football coach, which I pay homage to the other night. He had a way of getting the best out of his players while giving them the confidence they needed to be at their best. This basketball head has coached 135 Division I players, with some of them being some of the best in the country. And even a few played in the NBA. Like DeMar Johnson, Caron Butler, Sam Cassell, Cuttino Mobley, Brad Miller. We could go on and on for days, right? Eric Barkley, Jamie Patterson, Mamadou Nade, DeJuan Robinson, Edric Bohannon, Sean Collison, and Dave Johnson. At MCI, this basketball head had a record of 187-22. Y'all got it right. 187-22. And I may be a couple of hundred short, but we'll get to that later once my next guest comes in the show. He was 187-22 before taking the job at Severna Park High School in Maryland, which will be his last coaching job before retiring as one of the greatest coaches in the country. He also spent time being under the tutelage of legendary scout Marty Blake. So you already know he was top notch. At Severna Park, this basketball head was county champions in 2003, 2004, and 2013 and 2014. During the 2013-2014 season, his team set a school record with 23 wins. More important was the development of those players into young men, sharing values that later prepared them to become good husbands, fathers, employees, and in some cases, coaches and podcasters. He was tough but fair, showing the players exactly what he wanted them to do while mapping out a purpose and goals. He was big on character. Through basketball, he got us to look at life down the line and prepared us for other things in life. This is real talk because I'm an example of that lineage. So, without further ado, help me welcome to the show my former coach, Maine Central Institute legend, Coach Paul Pellicani.
Y'all ready?
Y'all ready?
Yes. You have just stepped into the world of chaos, where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online. Buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
Hey, Coach.
Glenn, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yeah, listen, I've been waiting to do this for a very long time. Um, you know, being with you as a teenager and having those experiences at MCI was a great part of my life, and I'll never forget it. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Well, actually, probably the thanks need to go in the other direction for you trusting us and coming up to such a different environment. I don't know if you'd ever seen so many pine trees until you came to Maine.
Not at all. When my bus pulled up, the only lights was your car. It was pitch black out there. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man.
Hey, we did have that one movie theater.
Listen, it was a one horse town. It's no knock to Pittsville,
No.
but we had one movie theater, one supermarket, one general store, just the basics. And listen, that's all you need, right? You don't need the excess, because we had that back in New York. So this was perfect for me.
Great. Well, good thing you didn't need anything after 4:30 because everything shut down. But
That's right.
but it was a call. It was a campus environment, so you guys were safe and warm and well fed, and I'm sure you don't forget those nightly study halls.
No. Listen, I tell my kids this all the time, and ball players, coaches, and friends alike. I didn't become a real student, till I got to MCI. I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is no knock to what we was doing at Lincoln, but it wasn't till I got to MCI with the 12 students in the classroom, the attention that I was given to help me excel as a student.
Well, that was it was right at the time when Prop 48 was just taken off.
Yep.
And to have the qualifying grades, and at that time it was a sliding scale between grades and SATs, and it was just a time where the NCAA was starting to take some real inroads on the scholastic side of it, and MCI did a real good job of preparing students for the next level.
And this is so crazy. I'm glad you brought that up, because I passed my SAT, got my grades to where it needed to be, and at the last moment, like right before the season was about to start, they declared me ineligible, and was blaming MCI for not giving them the right grades on my transcript. This is the real story. And my coach, Tom Green, will be on here on the 22nd, and I'm definitely going to discuss that, because, I was going to leave Fairleigh Dickinson and go to junior college. And my mother told me to stay. My mother didn't know too much about the game. I should have called you. And I don't know why I didn't call you. But it was a strange situation. It was right at the last moment. They pulled me in, and it crushed me.
Yeah.
But look, salute to MCI and you for everything you guys did for me, and it put me in a position to be successful in life. And I was never a quitter, and still to this day, whatever I start, I finish.
Again, awful proud of you, young man.
Thank you. So I'm gonna jump right into this. Who introduced you to the game?
That's a great question. It was actually my dad. It was back in the day when if you made it big time, you got to buy a pair of Chuck Taylors, Converse Chuck Taylors, and I remember I had a deal with my dad that if I made varsity, we would go down one store in my little town in the coast of Maine, sold them, and if I made varsity, he'd buy me a pair of Chuck Taylors, and we went down and I tried them on. And Glenn, when he found out that they were $10, he turned around and walked out, and I was crushed. So anyway,
hold on. we gonna blow a tech on that one. Yo, you serious, coach? Yo, listen, y'all have to understand, the Converse Chuck Taylors was such a big deal.
They were the top.
They were.
Yep.
They were. Listen, I made Lincoln varsity as a freshman with Chuck Taylors on. Blue high top Chuck Taylors.
Yep.
Never forget it.
Well, for your listeners out there, the leather Converse hadn't come out yet, and remember they made them in the custom colors for Magic and Larry, and but they were still the canvas when we were there. And anyway, I kind of negotiated with them. I did end up getting them, but the coach that really influenced me was a gentleman named Bob Brown. He was my high school coach. He was a tremendous coach when Rick Pitino was first hired at Boston University. And at that time, he was the youngest Division I head coach in the country, Rick Pitino was. And his first hire was Bob Brown.
Wow.
And everybody knows that Pitino runs this great pressure D and has this defensive system. Well, little is it known that it was actually Bob Brown's system. And that's why Rick brought him in. And then later on, Coach Brown became the head coach at St. Anselm in New Hampshire. And then later he became the head coach at Boston University. And his son, Brett Brown, had quite a career internationally. And then he was with Pop for a while in San Antonio. And then for a while, he was a head coach in the NBA. So actually, the Coach Brown, I owe an awful lot to him. And a lot of my philosophy and basis on fundamentals, attention to detail, stems from him.
Salute to Coach Brown, for sure. How was your high school days, Coach?
Well, believe it or not, basketball was my love, but I was first team All-State, and we were Class A at that time, as an offensive guard. I was an offensive lineman in high school. And I went to the All-State dinner, and Glenn, there were wide receivers bigger than me. and I would say, they say, you're an offensive lineman? I said, no, I'm probably an offensive holder. I think I made All-State because I held defensive linemen better than anybody else.
Wow. That's crazy that you say that, because when I first started off playing football, I went out as an offensive lineman. And I tell the story, yes, I told the story paying homage to my football coach, Coach Breeze. Listen, I went out for offensive line because I can hide. I really just wanted the jersey and go back to my junior high school and tell everybody I played football.
And you got to wear it on Fridays to school, and yeah.
Right, but the Most
Well,
High
I'll
had
tell you,
different
to go
plans.
back to the day, because my wife asked me, she goes, well, why did you have the number that you had in high school? Well, one, it was a lineman number, but I also played middle linebacker. And I was a huge fan of Dick Butkus. I was number 51.
Right.
And interesting story, I actually still hold the school record for the longest punt in school history. It was a day we shouldn't have been playing. We were at Madison High School. It was a monsoon, and we got stopped. I mean, we were barely outside their end zone. And I remember, here it is pouring. I was thinking to myself, do not step out of the end zone because it'll be a safety. Don't bobble it because it could be a touchdown for them.
Right.
So a successful snap came back. I got it. And as you know, a good punt should go up, get to its apex, and then come down in a spiral. Well, Glenn, to be honest with you, about 1 out of 3 of mine did that. Most of them looked like a duck that had been shot. So here we are in this monsoon. Snap comes back. I get it, field it cleanly. I get this punt off, and it was a decent punt. It went up, did what it was supposed to do, got to its apex. It's coming down. Well, Glenn, it hit a puddle and just hydroplaned. And I am still in the record book for the longest punt at Rockland District High School of 75 yards.
Wow.
Puddle aided.
Hey, listen, however you could get it, right? At least you're in the record books for something.
For something.
Right. Wow, wow.
And then, of course, like I said, I played high school basketball under Coach Brown, which was highly influential. And I started out playing baseball, but I had an ankle injury. And in Maine, golf happens to be a spring sport. And to make sure that I was going to be able to play football, more importantly, basketball, I took spring off, played golf, and ended up having a great deal of success in golf, and was maybe a non-traditional 3-sport athlete.
Right. And I remember you being a big golfer. Like that was one of the things you did very often,
For the people listening at home, notice he chose his words very carefully and very diplomatically. He said, remembered me being a big golfer. He did not say he remembered me being a good golfer.
Listen, well, I guess you can talk about your son right now and let the world know that you have passed that down to one of your sons.
Well, I have 2 sons. One was born in the Virgin Islands. That's when we decided to come back stateside. We didn't think grandparents should have to go through customs. And we came back to the States, and actually he's a very good golfer in his own right. But my younger son, who was born when we were dorm parents at Maine Central, we were living in the dorm, he is a very good golfer in his own right. Played in college, went to the NCAAs as his senior year, and he is actually a PGA of America member currently, and he's doing very, very well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Coach, who's your favorite basketball player coming up?
You're asking for everybody listening. You know who my favorite was. It was Bird.
It was my coaches as well. My coach. Let me tell you.
Can I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead. Because you guys.
Have you heard
Coach Bobby Hartstein's favorite player was? Yes.
Have you heard the Nolan Richardson Hall of Fame speech when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame?
No.
Oh, it's worth Googling on
I'm gonna
YouTube.
pull it up.
I'm going to paraphrase, but no, the Magic was in the crowd, Bird was in the crowd. I don't remember. They didn't share with us who introduced and who Coach Richardson's presenter was, but he starts talking about he was a college coach and he was going from point A to point B, and whoever his alma mater was on the radio, and they were playing Indiana State. No, excuse me. Indiana State was playing his alma mater's arch rival. And he's listening on the radio as he's going from, somewhere to somewhere. And he's listening, and, Bird does this and Bird does that. And he's listening. He said, I had no idea who this player was. He said, I had no idea who any of these players were on either team. All I know is I wanted our arch rival to lose, and they were playing Indiana State at the time. And after he listened for a while, and Burns doing, he goes, this Bird, this brother can play. And he goes, and of course the whole audience chuckles, and Bird and Magic chuckle. And he goes, and then the next morning I wake up at the hotel, I go down, I get the paper, and I look in the paper, and there's a picture. He goes, wow. He did not think Bird was going to look the way he looked in that picture.
Right.
It's way funny. I mean, he is so funny. Anyway, but yeah, Larry Bird, I think what I liked about him, not only tremendously talented, but it showed that guys that play hard, that have high basketball IQ, see the floor, are willing to box out and rebound that way. You don't have to be, phenomenal athleticism. So many guys are so talented today at every level. But, he just showed that, if you have the fundamentals and you play unselfishly, minimize your mistakes. I mean, he was a phenomenal player.
Yeah, definitely in my top 10. And it's crazy how I hear these guys rank these players, and you know, their range of basketball only goes back to about 10, 15 years, right? And I always tell them, like, you can't count the guys who came before them. You can't count them out. You just can't jump to the new 10. But I guess everybody have their preference, but Bird is definitely in my top 10.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and these guys, just to be clear, predate me. But Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor,
Yeah,
Jerry West, Wilt. I mean, the names I just mentioned, they can play in any era,
yeah,
any era.
definitely. And I wonder if some of these guys that's playing in this era could play in the era before them, because now there's no hand check, right? You have so much freedom to move, to make your move, and no one can touch you. Just imagine if these guys have free reign to do what they want.
Oh my goodness. The Pistons Celtics games. I mean, they were a battle. No free layups, hard fouls. None of the. They just played the game hard, and they played with a lot of compassion.
Definitely.
And not to hit a sore spot, but there was no load management.
No, no. And they weren't making $100 million a year.
No.
Just imagine these guys making $100 million, how harder they would played.
Well, I think one of the things that has negatively impacted sports, and basketball certainly there, was when they introduced the concept of the no-cut contract. I think some of that drive and the motivation just wasn't quite the same, because if you weren't sure that you were going to be getting that paycheck like you had become accustomed, unless you produced and played hard, that's a pretty good motivator.
Yeah, definitely. So when did you want to become a coach? When did that started to kick in? Like, becoming a coach. I know you played the game, but when did you start thinking about becoming a coach?
Interesting question. I went to college with the intent of majoring in physical education, and I did. And as I got into it, I think I started to realize that, at least the way I had been brought up with my mentors and role models, that there was very little difference, at least in my subject area, between teaching and coaching. And I said, particularly, geez, have a chance to focus on something that I really had a passion for, and I loved. Wasn't very good at it, being my size and athleticism, pretty standard. So I got a chance to start coaching, and I said, this is pretty good. And then, so I had a really neat opportunity when I was at Maine Central, because college basketball starts roughly October 15th, and my wife is from the Boston area. And at that time, actually, I started coaching in the Virgin Islands, but when I got stateside, I had a really unique opportunity, because my wife is from the Boston area, and we would go down to visit her mom, and we were only 30, 35 minutes from Boston. And I would go in Saturday morning and Sunday morning, and it would alternate who I'd go to in the morning and who I'd go to in the PM. But Dr. Tom Davis was at Boston College,
Mm-hmm.
and Gary Patino was at BU, and then in following years, it was Gary Williams at Boston College and Patino at BU. And I would go and watch their practices. I'd watch one in the morning. They were very gracious, had me in, full access to everything. And then I'd go to the office in the afternoon, and I'd repeat on Sunday, and then we go back to Maine for school on Monday morning. And I learned so much, because one coach everything was breakdown, 100% breakdown drills. and the other coach was as close as you can get to 100% 5-on-5.
Mm.
And they were just such stark contrasts to how to teach the game and how to get your players ready. And I still have a notebook, this thick, with notes that I took in those days back in the early 80s. And I think that played a big role, being able to see coaches, Hall of Fame coaches, installing systems, working with individual players, and so on. And that had a big impact. And in fact, a lot of the drills and some of the things you were exposed to they weren't original. And I've said, and I think a lot of coaches will, if they're honest, will say, we don't have a lot of individual stuff. I mean, original stuff. Now, it may have morphed and hybrid over the years, where I take a little bit of Krzyzewski and a little bit of Massimino and a little bit of Gary Williams and a little bit of Cheney and a little bit of Boeheim, and all of a sudden, it's become my man-to-man defense, or we ran a lot in Maryland because of my athletes. We ran a lot of Princeton stuff, actually very successful. But I don't really have a lot of original ideas. It's stuff I saw, I liked it, and took the parts I liked and made it into something that worked.
Well, we couldn't tell, Coach. Trust me, we couldn't tell. He couldn't tell at all. I want to give a big shout out to my guy, Boyhead Buchanan's in the building. My guy, Cal from All Things Hoops. Cal, we definitely going to get there. And yes, Carlton Hines did attend MCI. We're definitely going to get there. Basil, what's up? What's up, Basil? We're definitely going to do that New York versus New Jersey thing, man. So just give me some time. My schedule is kind of filled up. So we definitely going to do it, though. But I got you. For sure. What do you remember the first coaching job? I know you said you coached in the Virgin Islands, and do you remember the first game?
Oh wow, the first game.
I know I'm taking you back.
You're taking me back. I can tell you this: the College of the Virgin Islands was, and I don't know why it was established before I got there, but there was some kind of history that they allowed us to practice in their facility, and that was our home court, was the College of the Virgin Islands. And I remember that clearly. And I'll tell you the other thing I remember about that, Glenn, which was an education in and of itself, was at that time, even high school basketball in the Virgin Islands played international rules. And offensive goaltending, all these things are just, they were foreign to me. And the flared lanes, and that was a little bit of it took more than a minute to get to use some of that. I don't remember the first game, but I do remember our first playoff game. And we had won, well, actually not the first playoff game, our first territorial championship. We won the championship on St. Thomas. We go over to St. Croix for the territorial championship. And the most common way to get over to St. Croix, unless you had unlimited time, were these seaplanes. And Maureen O'Hara, who was a famous actress, owned these fleet of seaplanes. They're the ones that land on the water. They have the pontoons. And they were right there at the main harbor in Charlotte Amalia. They didn't have a very good air record. I mean, there was quite regularly problems landing and so on and so on. And I remember we're going over to St. Croix, and this, it was a Sisters of Charity out of New York run school, and it was called St. Peter and Paul. And the nuns let us go over on these seaplanes, and because of the size of the team, we needed two planes. Now you got to keep in mind the pilots are not in a cockpit. There is a pilot and a co-pilot, but they're just there, and there's like 7 to 8 to a plane plus the pilots. And all the players, they didn't want to go on the plane with the head coach. They wanted to go on the plane that the head nun, the principal of the school, they wanted to go in her plane because they knew that plane was not going to go down.
Right.
And so Sister Magdalena went in the other plane. God love her for supporting us. And Glenn, back in 78, 79, 80, 81, gym bags were canvas.
Right.
They were canvas. So I'm in this enclosed plane that does not have a great track record to begin with. And one of my players, I look over, and all of a sudden his canvas gym bag is like, whoa. He said, James, what's going on? He goes, Coach, shh. He's waiting, shh. He goes, it's my father's championship fighting cock. And he sold it to a man in St. Croix, and he asked me if I would bring it over. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord.
Yeah, hold on.
This is how it's going to end.
Hold on, Coach. We have to say pause on that one, but I get what you said. The championship.
Well, first of all, you got to understand, not that I'm not a proponent and I've never been to one, but there's no runner-up in cockfighting. There's just, you win and the other one is fried chicken. And this thing has like razor blade claws or whatever you call their feet. And I'm in this plane and I'm thinking, this is how it's going to end. I said, this bird is going to take us all down. Well, anyway, we got there, we played, we got home. So I can talk to you this evening that it did have a good ending.
Hey, listen, thank God you still here because there'll be no MCI. I know that for sure. At least prep basketball. And leading into that, how did you get the job at MCI?
So we came back stateside. Like I said, we just thought it was, both sets of grandparents should be able to enjoy and love and, be part of this, our grandchild. And a good friend of mine had been the head coach at MCI, Maine Central, and he was moving to another school to become a principal. And he asked me, he said, do you have interest? I think you'd be good at this. And I said, yeah. And he recommended it to the headmaster, and I interviewed, and I got the job.
Nice. The one constant thing, that I'm hearing, but I already noticed, big thing with you was family, keeping the family together, being able to watch the kids grow up and make sure the grandparents are involved. So salute to you and your family for always, remaining tight and keeping that unit together. So salute to the Pelicani family. The whole
very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to jump right into this, right? Do you remember your first player you got from New York City?
Oh, wow. Man, I had a few. Were you there when Carlos Easterling was there?
I was before Carlos.
You were before. Were you my first New York City player?
I think so.
Man,
Mark, I can't remember his last name.
Robinson?
Mark Robinson. He wasn't from New York.
He was from Connecticut.
Yes, right. He lived in New York, but he moved to Connecticut.
Right, when the last school he attended prior to Maine Central, I know was a Connecticut school, yeah. No, I remember Mark. We had this drill, and we do preseason workouts.
Yep.
And we used to have this drill, I call it, rim touching, and put 30 seconds on the clock.
Yes, I remember.
And you go up, touch the rim right hand, touch it left hand, touch it two hand. That would be 3.
Yes.
And in 30 seconds, first time Mark did it, I think he got 14. And by October 15th, which we started soon after the colleges, he was up to 31.
Salute to Mark and rest in peace too, man.
Well, and that's just him being willing to put in the work.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I actually kind of got that idea. Now, here's a name going back. There was a guy named Paul Silas, played
Yes.
for the Celtics,
Yep.
and one
Legendary.
year he wins the rebounding title, and he was only about 6'7". He wasn't big for an NBA, big time rebounder. And they come into preseason and they said, you won the rebounding title last year, and all the reporters are there. This is actually back when they had paper and pencil. Tell us the secret. What did you do? And they were ready, poised, Glenn, to write it down. What did you do to get ready? He goes, I jumped. And everybody chuckles. They go, oh, that's great. But no, seriously, what did you do? He goes, no, seriously, I jumped. I worked on jumping, and I got better at jumping and rebounding.
Wow.
And, and I bring that up, and it comes to my mind because, that's what Mark did. First time he did it, he got 14 in 30 seconds. And by the time he was done, he got 31 in 30 seconds. And that's just, see, everybody talks about overload and progression in terms of training. A lot of times they neglect, I think, an overlooked training principle, and that's the SAID principle, which is an acronym for specific adaptation to imposed demands.
Mm.
And that's kind of what Paul Silas said. He said, look, if you want to get better at jumping, jump. If you want to get better at ball handling, jump and rope. Might get you in better shape, might help your hand-eye, but it's not going to make you a better ball handler. You need to ball handle.
Yep.
And so I took a lot of that to heart. And if you remember, a lot of our drills were dual or multifaceted.
Yeah.
A lot of times kids would say, we didn't run much, except when maybe I got irritated with you.
Oh, yeah.
But I incorporated running with the drills. You guys did more running than you were aware because it was buried within a drill, which is how you play the game. You don't just run down the court. You run down the court, you have to turn, you have to transition, play D. You have to run the floor, look over that inside shoulder, get the outside hand up, to run the lane correctly. But anyway, I digress.
No, that's was on point. That was on point. Now, I remember the conversation my mom and I had with you about coming to MCI, right? You were such a beacon of light because before we called you, we spoke to Steve Smith at Oak Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And he told us that he would get back to us because he had to speak to late, great, legendary scout Tom Kowski.
Dear friend.
Right, definitely. But my mom fell in love with you. And, the fact that you said to me, we'd love to have you. I'm not going to promise you anything. Everything that you get, you're going to have to earn. And my mother's looking at me on the other phone saying, he's the one. He's the one. Right? And then after that, the deal was sealed. And 5 minutes later, Steve Smith called back and said to my mom, we'd love to have him. Tom gave me the thumbs up and everything. But my mom knew Tom already had spoke to you guys prior.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that. So she said, I like him. This man seems honest. And this is where you're going to go.
Glenn, did you get a chance? One of the photos I forwarded you was a picture of the HSBI index, the high school basketball index written by Tom Kowski.
Yeah.
He was literally, this gentleman had probably the greatest control of the English language that anybody I've met. And my wife would call him a wordsmith because I'm sure you went and read some of those. You recognize those names.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't just say, can handle and do that. I mean, it was almost like poetry, and it was interesting because he had such a great reputation in the college world that if Tom said player could do X, Y, and Z, when they got to that school, he wasn't oversold, nor was he undersold. It was, they said, you know what? This is exactly what you said we were going to be getting. And, that's how when I was interceding with you guys, with college coaches, I was very honest because as soon as you got to school, they were going to find out.
Yeah.
If I and you know, one of the names you left out, but was Kenny Atkinson. Who had a great career at Richmond and played professionally, and then ended up, with the
Right.
Nets,
You're
and
right.
he's still
Definitely.
coaching in the
Right.
NBA. Is when they got to school, they're going to say, you know what, if this is what, and people out there got to understand, I'm not good at slapping myself on the back. One of my assistant coaches actually is quite unhappy with me because he doesn't think I do it enough, but is they got what I said they were going to get. And Glenn, I'll tell you, we would have coaches, high school coaches call up. He would like our player to come there and so on, and he's 6'4", 6'5" and a half, maybe 6'6", and he'd come to campus, and Glenn, I'm almost looking him in the eye. And I'm thinking, I'd go home with my wife, but I said, I am now almost 6'6", and she goes, "You're 5'10", dude." So it's like, we're going to find out. You can say he's 6'6", but eventually we're all going to find out he is not. And, same thing with the skill level, what they do well, what they do, what they could do better. And, I took a lot of pride in that, college coaches and Tom Kowski. My evaluation was pretty spot on. And I think it helps you guys.
Definitely, definitely. So, along with the podcast, I also am the guy who covers the high school basketball in New York City now that Mr. Kowski is no longer with us. You have a few other guys, but that does it. But the way I do it is a little bit unique and different from others because not only that I evaluate the players, I interview the players after the game, interview the coaches after the game. My Instagram and my Facebook is where they can see their articles because in New York City, the papers don't give the high school guys any pub.
I think unfortunately that's a national trend, and I don't know if it's since they went to the digital or there's just limited inches in the hard paper, but that's kind of universal now. It's unfortunate.
Yes. So now I attend the games. I think I saw more games than anyone, probably like me, my guy Dave from Dave Joint, my guy Jaquan that does Hoop Dreams NYC. But also on top of that, I was brought in to do the first annual Tom Kowski All City game as well last year.
Where do they host it?
Well, we had it at Malloy High School, where we attended school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we put the Catholic school versus the PSC, the public schools.
That's awesome.
And that's something that I could say that I was a part of the first one because he meant so much to me and helping me, transition from to prep school. It was the honor.
For your people out there that know him, this may make them smile. For the ones that don't, may find this hard to believe. But he was arguably the most influential high school evaluator in the country. No one made a McDonald's All-American without his blessing, a Parade All-American, a Gatorade Player of the Year. But the interesting thing was he never owned a car. He never had a cell phone, and he would not have an answering machine.
And he still used the typewriter.
And he literally typed it, not a laptop, not a keyboard. I mean, a typewriter where you put the paper in and go.
Yeah. So, it's look, I get people telling me all the time, like, yo, Glenn, you the new Tom Kowski. And in the beginning, I was kind of hesitant, like, yo, bro, I'm just doing a service. And that's what basically it is. I'm not doing it for clout. I'm not doing it for a paycheck. It's basically to give back to kids how it was given to me. I remember being in the paper. I remember being scouted by, Mr. Kowski. And a lot of my friends who I came up with and played against are now the top coaches in New York City.
Mm.
So it makes things, a lot easier for me.
Yeah, that's good. No, I tell you, just a fine gentleman, and such a great tribute that you're having. That now, is it like a round robin or how do you
No,
do it?
no. So I want to give a big shout out to Coach Holford, who is a member of the Tom Kowski Foundation. He watched the interview with me and the late Coach Kerr from Holy Cross, who was on the McDonald's All-American board.
Mhm.
So I'm interviewing his son because Coach Kerr moved on. And I said, one day I want to put together a game like the Wheelchair Classic, a Go to Hoops, those standard games that we had in New York City that, those are things that kids look forward to. We don't have any of that right now. Coach Holford was watching the show, called me the next morning, and he said, I got this idea. But he just wanted to keep it in Queens. And I told him, I said, whatever I do, it have to be broad. It have to, include the whole New York City. So since I'm in contact with all the top players, I sent them invites. And I put it on my page. And, I have a few thousand subscribers. So they were just sending them back, I'm down, I'm playing, I'll be there. And all of a sudden, we had all the top players in the city. Presented to Coach Holford, and that's how it went down. They didn't have to try because I already knew who can play. I already knew who were the top guys already. And I also took it from my All City. I named the All City team as well. So I took that. It was easy for me. It was just hooking up the invite and sending it to their Instagram and letting them know they've been selected to play in the first annual Tom Kowski game. And Coach, 90% of the players had no idea who Mr. Tom Kowski was.
Mm-hmm.
So we, of course, we had to kind of educate them and let them know who he was and what he meant to the city and why this game is so important. Next year, and that's just a whole nother thing. I'll be doing the Basketball Heads All City game, and we'll be holding it at a public school. So if I told the foundation if they want to, be a part of what I'm doing this year, it's I'm still with it, but it's just something that I won't talk about on air. But I had a great time doing it, and it was a success in my eyes. And rest in peace, Mr. Kowski, for everything you did for New York and the whole country.
Well, on behalf of many people, thank you for spearheading that.
Definitely. And whatever I could do to keep his legacy and name alive, I'm definitely going to do it because he meant so much to me and had such an impact in my life. Because I would have never met you if it wasn't for Mr. Kowski. Yeah.
Well, despite his influence and impact on the game, he was the most humble man you'd ever meet. Just
definitely.
I mean, Glenn, he would call me years later, talking to me about this situation, that situation, and before he even got there, he would say, "And how's Nicholas?" He would never call him Nick.
Right.
Because he wasn't baptized as Nick. He was baptized as, and Benjamin and your wife, Lisa. I mean, but he meant it. But he remembered their names.
Definitely.
I have people in my department that I used to teach, and I'm not sure knew all my family's name.
Well, listen to this. He left a message on Coach Ray Haskins' voicemail wishing his daughter a happy birthday. And she saved it. He still have the message to this day. That's what kind of man he was.
Well, and I don't mean to belabor this, but just kind of take it to exactly that. It's right along that line like you were talking about. When my mother passed away, who was the first parent for either my wife or I to pass, I don't know, maybe a week 10 days, a letter came in the mail, and it was a mass card from Coach
Wow.
Kowski that there was going to be a mass said in my mother's honor. And I'm thinking, good Lord, all the people he's interacting with and dealing with, but he remembered that. And I mean, that's the kind of guy he was.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, this is a great segue because we want to bring this back and talk about the Kingsbury family. I couldn't go on with this conversation that we're having if I don't mention them.
Tanya
Salute.
Kingsbury.
That's right. That's right. Salute to the Kingsbury family. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for opening up your house to me. Thank you for taking me in. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting me with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Just thank you. Appreciate you. And I will always and forever be in debt and love you guys.
Wow, that. My wife and I were talking about that earlier this summer. Now that's really special.
Nah, this is, I mean that, they meant so much to me during that time period, and me not being home with my mom, and definitely played a huge role in helping me grow as a man and as a student. So definitely thank you.
Well, this may make you smile because I'm sure you were the beneficiary of this. I'm from Rockland, Maine. I'm not very worldly, but I had never had chili. And to this day, my wife makes chili with Mrs. Kingsbury's recipe.
Wow.
That was the first chili I had ever had. I loved it. And my wife said, "You've never had it before?" I said, "No, not in Rockland, Maine. No one had chili." And matter of fact, we had some this week, and it was, when you have a piece of paper and there's kind of some stains on it and crinkled,
Right.
and it was handwritten recipe. But yeah, Mrs. Kingsbury's recipe. I'm sure she made it for you on many occasions.
Oh, most definitely. And another thing she introduced me to was the hoagie, right?
Oh.
Because where we come from, it's the hero, right?
That's right.
But the hoagie, they kind of split the bread in the middle, and I was so fascinated by the way they split the bread. I had one of those hoagies once a week. It was, man.
Education in and out of the classroom.
That's
man.
right. That's right. That's right. Wow. So how did you guys hook that up? Because I know we talked about it off air, but let's bring that up now and talk about how you guys hooked that up and how you went about doing it.
So when I first accepted the job at Maine Central, there was some tension. So for those of you who don't know the school, at that time, it was the public high school for the town of Pittsfield, as well as a prep school. It was dual. And the prep school kids, I think the local males felt probably a little threatened because here's these older boys, and of course all the younger girls were looking up to you because here come these studs, good looking, athletic, muscular guys. And of course anybody from out of town is all just by default is going to be a celebrity just because you're from out of town.
Right.
And there was a lot of tension and friction, maybe is a better word. And I said, you know what, this doesn't need to be this way. And although I had never attended the Naval Academy, I was familiar with a program that they had for their plebes and midshipmen to help them bridge being away from home. And I can tell you, going to a service academy is not like going to any other college. It is a very different experience. And so they had these host families to help the mids get through the 4 years. And I said, you know what, that's a really good idea. And so I started it, and I tried to connect families with players that I thought would be, a good fit. And the Kingsburys bought in. As remember the Chinquettes,
Yes, yes.
Tom Chinquette, Bonnie
Yep.
Chinquette, they
Yep.
were great,
Awesome
and a
people.
number of families. And it was really to help you guys because I knew where we were. I already alluded to it. Everything closed at 4:30. There's people listening to this don't know life without computers and cell phones, but you guys had one phone at the end of the hallway, and you had to have your quarters and dimes unless you called to collect. And then there would be a line of guys, once study hall was over, before lights out, there would be a line waiting to call. And I'm thinking, we got to help them be successful here. And I thought having that connection where you could go and sit on a sofa and watch a real TV and maybe, have a hoagie rather than something in the cafeteria that, was only open for like 45 minutes. I'm glad it had such a lasting impression on you. And as I mentioned to you off air, it was equally impactful for the families. Matter of fact, within the last year, Mr. Chinquette has reached out to me and because of another documentary that's being made. And you guys impacted them as much, if not more, than they helped you get through that, because that was a transition.
Definitely. And I think for me, staying with the Kingsbury, it allowed me to interact with more of the townspeople than some of the guys who stayed on campus. And I remember, do you remember the flood that we had?
Oh, I was at an All-American game, and I think it was, I know I was at an All-American game, and I called, and Pittsfield was engulfed. It was like a moat, giant moat around. Our campus was a little bit elevated.
Yep.
And she was telling me, my wife was telling me how I can't remember somebody's name in the town had come and said, can the PG basketball players help us fill sandbags and do other things?
Right.
And
that's right.
Yeah, no, I was not in town. By the time I got back, the water had receded.
Right. We was in boats and everything. We was in, going around and helping people out. Those were some fun times.
Glenn, you got to be straight with me here. Had you ever been in a boat before?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed.
Yes. Not in those situations, of course.
No, not in those situations.
No, not at all. But those are the days, man. I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna get to that later on. But the only negative experience that I had up there was the fight between Perry and Henry.
Oh my God.
Get there. We're gonna get there on championship day.
Henry Golightly.
Yes.
From Texas.
That's right. He was the first guy that had the really long arms like Allen Iverson.
Oh,
and he could ball too.
He couldn't have been 5'7", 5'8". He was.
Oh yes.
But no, his arms were like 6'1", 6'2".
Definitely.
And quick.
Definitely.
Oh my God, he was quick. Yeah, I put them together and talk about Ike and Mike, because here's Perry that looked like Dwight Howard before there was Dwight Howard.
He had size, I think, 18 shoe or 20
They were 19s, but
19, that was crazy.
Yep. So let me share this with you. I did not know this, but it is very, very common that your ring size is within plus or minus half a size of your shoe size.
Wow.
And we bought, we bought 4 sets of championship rings. So whatever number, that turned out to be. And there was only one exception, and it was a manager. And his wasn't within plus or minus, but even Perry's, it was like 18 and a half ring. You know those rings that you put dinner napkins in?
Yeah.
That's what his ring looked. I mean, it was just massive. And I remember I contacted LL Bean because he didn't have any winter shoes, and I told him the story.
Moccasins. Yeah, moccasins.
They're waterproof on the bottom, leather up top.
Yeah.
They sent me a pair of 19s. I just don't think there was a lot of supply and demand for 19. So yeah,
Right.
no, we'll give you a pair.
Right. Definitely. And also, this part of your arm as well, from your wrist to here, is the same size as your shoe.
Is it interesting?
Yeah, yeah. I found that out when I was in college. I was amazed by that. And another thing that I learned, I don't know who did I learn this from. I think this was in college as well. I don't try on pants anymore because the only thing I do is take the pants and wrap. If it wraps around your neck, it'll fit your waist.
Well, when you're a college athlete, not when you're middle aged.
I think it's still the same, Coach. I think it's the same. But we won't go there. But let's talk about that 1987 team. You know, Perry Carter, Roger Lewis, Henry Golightly, Rob Vickers, and a host of others. We talk about Mark Robinson, Matt, Kevin Malone, if I remember, and a host of others, man. That was a great bunch of kids. Was Perry your first McDonald's All-American?
Yes. Yeah.
So you had a lot of firsts. The first New York City kid was me, and Perry Carter was the first.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And the first, I'll call big name player we had was a young man out of Providence named Jamie Benton.
Yes.
He went to Boston College, sat behind Michael Adams for 1 year, which I thought was beneficial. You know, Big East, and this is when the Big East was.
With the Big East.
Oh man. But then for 3 years, you know, it was Jamie's show. But yeah, that was a really good team, you know, and Rob Vickers went to Indiana State.
That's right.
Now, was Anthony Yearwood with you?
No. I remember Roger Lewis.
Roger Lewis. I just talked to him in the past year.
Please, Coach, forward me his number.
I will.
Talk about this
I
guy
can do that.
so
please,
much.
Can you write that down, please? Roger Lewis. Yes.
Roger Lewis. He was such an amazing athlete. He was just like a poor man's Johnny Dawkins because the left hand shot, and he can get up so high.
I tell you, he had better vertical than Dawkins.
Oh, he had way better. Okay, Coach. So I have the news article where we was up in New Hampshire, and I won a dunk contest, right? And I only won the dunk contest because Roger missed his last dunk. And I tell everybody this, I wasn't a great athlete, but Roger, he was just doing things that no one else could do. And I remember him missing his last dunk, and he just burst out in tears, and he came over to me, grabbed me by my jersey. He said, "You better win this. You better win this." And, you know, and Clint won a 3-point shooting contest.
Yep. Clint Williams.
Yep. I won the dunk contest, and Perry got MVP of the tournament. Yep. We swept the whole thing. Yep. And another standout moment was Grandpa for the Monsters.
Okay, he is not making this up. His name is Al. Oh my goodness. So I remember first game I going, look over, go, that guy looks like Grandpa Munster.
Yes.
Well, he was.
Yes. Thank you, Coach. Because
he was
his name was. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, he was a for lack of a better word, he was a booster for UCLA.
Al Lewis.
Al Lewis.
Yes.
He was a surrogate. He was a booster for UCLA, and he came a couple times to see you guys. Al Lewis, and you know what? When he was Grandpa Munster, he did not wear much makeup because he looked just yes. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. It is Al Lewis. He looked like Grandpa Munster in the stands.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to, you know, I'm doing these series of individual stories that I had throughout my life. And sometimes I think people think I'll be fabricating the things I'm saying. I had the amount of amazing things that happened in my basketball career is crazy. So I'm glad we're doing this documentary. He came up to us. He knew our names. It freaked me out. And we was like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I'm up here with these two hot ladies." And he pointed to the stand. He was with two women. I was like, "Yo," and it was way younger than him. I was like, yo, you serious? I couldn't believe that he knew our name. And we all just was looking at each other like, yo, do you believe that Grandpa for the Monsters know who we are? And he was a big basketball fan, a huge basketball fan.
Yep. 100%.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Because when I say this story, people got to go back and check this, and you validated for me.
No, it's legit. I get it, because I think sometimes when people finally get me talking, they're thinking like, okay, well, that story's a little embellished, or that one's, but no, they're all accurate.
No, this is crazy. Now, we talked about having or playing with such a great player like Perry Carter, right? You got to see all the big time coaches come to the gym. Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith. You had John Thompson, Jim Calhoun, and so
They all
on.
did.
And so
Yep.
they all was there.
And Glenn, what was really amazing, so what staffs would do to maximize their time is, they'd send us one assistant to this university, another assistant to this one, and this one. But that particular year, it was very common. And we even had the TV in there, because the entire Villanova staff would be there.
Yep.
The entire Duke staff.
That's right.
Was in our gym at the same time.
Yep.
That's unheard of, because why aren't you out, maximizing? Yeah, no, that was really crazy.
And our gym reminded me of the Hoosier gym. It was just that tiny, but listen, we balled out in that gym, and we called it home. So definitely that was awesome. Now, what a tragic ending, because we had such a great season, right? And I get to the campus, and everybody have long faces. I was a vocal guy, so I'm asking guys what's going on. Like, we got to get up for this game. And they like, yo, Perry and Henry had a fight. And I'm going, what do you mean a fight? They're roommates. So this is
right.
No, they had a full-blown fight. And I was like, oh, man. Coach, how did that make you feel when you found out what happened?
Because Perry he just had more than an off night. And
he did not play well at all.
No, we were at Phillips Exeter, correct?
No, it was New Bedford. Was it New Bedford?
No, it wasn't New Hampton. No,
New Hampton. You sure it wasn't New Hampton?
No, not that game. No,
the championship game. It was the championship game.
Yeah.
I don't think it was New. It wasn't New. Trust me, it wasn't New Exeter. I think it was New Hampton. We lost to New Hampton. If you could find the article.
Yeah.
It was the championship game.
But I could not figure out what was wrong with him, and as a result, the whole team, I think, was feeding off that poor energy.
Yep.
And whether it be timeouts or different combinations, or
he wouldn't talk to any of us.
Yeah, it just there were no strings to be pulled that night.
Right. And listen, we had some great players on that team, but as Perry go, we go. I'm just gonna keep it real. That was our leader. Man, you can't replace, those numbers and those rebounds he was getting every night for us. And for him to have an off night or not be there mentally, it just sucked the energy out the whole team.
Remember when we played Fork Union one night at the University of Maine, then one night at Colby?
Yep. I have that article. Hold on. I think I have that article. I just pulled it up. I remember that game.
Fork Union had a kid named Kenny Williams.
Yep.
Who was going to go to UNC.
Yep.
Until he went home and they pulled his scholarship.
I remember that. I think I have it. Hold on. Where is this thing? Because I'm quite sure I pulled it up. It was, oh, man. I got to find it, Coach. But I do have it. I have it in my phone, and it says MCI got rallied by Fork Union.
Yep.
And
Coach
then the next
Ararat.
one, yep. And then the next one was the man's here. Hold on. But I definitely have that in my scrapbook because where's that? Oh wow. I'll show you this right now. Hold up. So here's our gym with Perry at the foul line.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now look, now we lost to them, but it says we crushed them at our school, right? So
We did. We crushed them. Wasn't even it was.
here
It
go
may have
right
been
here.
30-40.
This is the one of the
Yep.
another article. Then you got Mark right here. I saved a lot of this stuff, Coach. Mark Robinson on the inbound pass.
Oh,
Those
yes.
long arms,
Yep.
right? This is
I remember those uniforms.
yeah. So it's a lot that that number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going back. I think I have that championship game in here somewhere when we lost, but I'll definitely have to find that. But I think it was New Hampton. I don't think we were playing Exeter.
We weren't playing. I thought we were playing at Phillips Exeter because I know it was a neutral site.
Yes. Yes. But the team we played was New Hampton.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but it was at Phillips Exeter because this was such a. It was a world I was not accustomed to because we get there and we pull up and we get you guys out and they show us where the locker rooms are, and I'm talking to the AD or the assistant AD or whoever greeted us, and I said I see a lot of construction outside.
Right.
And no, Max Good did not coach Carlton and Sam, not at Maine Central.
Tell them, Coach, because we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
And he goes, somebody left an endowment and we have to use the interest, not the principal from the endowment, but just the interest has to be used. So we're building 10 new tennis courts on just the interest for the tennis endowment. Like, this is a different world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's move on. You get to the next year, you get Carlos Easterling coming up, you get Carlton Hines coming up, you get Sam Cassell coming up. And I'm quite sure you're saying to yourself, wow, this is going to be another amazing year. We got one of the best players in the country here in Carlton Hines. And then he goes home during Thanksgiving and, the unfortunate incident happens.
That was year 2.
So you had him there. He played the first year.
He played his entire year. Yeah.
Got you.
No, that was his junior year. And during his junior year, Boeheim had come up and loved him. And then Carlton comes back with a very expensive vehicle to start his senior year. And there was some scuttlebutt going around. And Mr. Konchowski had called me about some things that had happened between Riverside and the Gauchos and some things. And Boeheim came up that fall and said, Carlton, our interest has not changed a bit. But, I think and I remember Coach Boeheim said to me, he possibly could be the best player to ever play at Syracuse. He said, however, you have to graduate from Maine Central, not back home. I'm not saying you have to graduate. You have to graduate from here. And like you said, there was a thing about car keys, and as you know, post-grads could have cars, but they had to turn the keys in, and Carlton turned a set in, but had another set apparently because he was seen, driving this vehicle around town, and the headmaster took action, and Carlton didn't agree with the action. And like you said, he went home and And again, that was another one of the calls I got from Mr. Konchowski a few years later. He said, Coach, I want you to hear it from me first. I don't want you to hear it, any other way. And he told me about that very, very, very unfortunate ending.
Wow. I was just so mixed up with that because I thought he went his senior year, but yet I forgot he was 2 years behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been his junior year for sure.
Yeah, it was his junior year. And even though he was a junior, he was the leader of that team. And there were kids that were seniors and postgraduates, which means, they could have been 18, 19. But he was absolutely the leader of that team.
He was way beyond his years. We had beat the year before I got up to Maine Central, we had beat his high school, Manhattan Center, for the city championship.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
yeah.
he was a phenomenal talent.
Oh, yes. He
And
was a man
just a
amongst
really
boys.
nice person.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard about all of these other things that was happening in his life. I was shocked because he was such a cool young man and so smooth, and he wasn't a rebel rouser. He
No.
wasn't, one of those kids.
No, and Glenn, I'll tell you, when he smiled, he would just light up the whole room.
$1 million smile. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Rest in peace, the great Carlton Hines. We miss you, brother, for sure. So that his senior year when he didn't come back, first of all, Carlos Easterling, I spoke to him today. He told me to tell you hi.
Thank you.
Yes, he was on his way to a Knick game. He is better known today as NBA Los. He has so many NBA connections. Of course, that happened through Sam because he came on the show and he explained everything.
Yeah.
Right. But he said Carlton was the guy, but when he didn't come back, Sam stepped immediately into that role.
Oh, yeah. No. When I was talking about Carlton being the leader, that was his junior year. He never made it to the season.
Right.
Yeah. And another player from Sam's team, Sam's year, was Louis Lambert.
That's right. That's right.
And Louis contacts me periodically. I'm so proud of so many of you guys, turning into such nice young men, and feel like I maybe not a lot, but just a smidge.
Let me tell you, Coach, watching Sam Cassell, Catino Mobley, Eric Barkley, all those guys, when they was in college or they went to the league, I would just sit back and be like, those are my guys. I went to that school. And, man, you did such a great job with all of us. How did coaching all of those great players help you as a coach?
Well, I think one of the things I took pride in was, regardless of where you were at as an individual, if you were here, I tried to get you to here. If you were already here, I'm going to be off the frame. I'm trying to get you up here.
Right.
And I remember when we went back to the Capital Classic, because Perry played in the McDonald's game, but because you're allowed to play in 2 national all-star games.
Yep.
And he wanted to play in the Capital Classic, which I get it. It's from DC.
That's right.
And Coach Myers from Gonzaga was taken back at the growth in Perry's game. He said he couldn't handle it the way he does now. He didn't shoot it from the perimeter the way he does now. And whether it be Perry or Rob Vickers or Kenny Atkinson or Glenn Harden, wherever somebody was at, I tried to take him to the next level.
That's right. No, you did a great job with us. With all the success you had there at MCI, what made them get rid of the prep program?
Well, that's kind of a sore point. There was a headmaster at the time that called me in and said, I'm not comfortable us being known as the #1 basketball prep school in the country. He
Mm.
says, we are going to become the #1 performing arts and drama school in New England.
We're going to throw a tech on that one. And this is a real serious tech on that, headmaster. You are definitely fouled for that.
Not only are you out this game, but you can't play in the next game.
Two tech.
And I remember I left that meeting and I went home. We had just bought it. We had recently bought a house off campus. I mean, literally across. I mean, you'd think it was on campus. It was so close. And I told my wife, I said, it is time to look for something else because the priority has changed. And what was interesting is a number of the board members of the board of trustees were 100% there. Were you there when Lewis broke the backboard and it went inside out?
Roger Lewis?
No. Oh shoot! I just said his name.
No, we didn't.
Lewis Lambert. Lewis Lambert.
No. I was
Okay.
there the 87
So
year.
we were in the middle, toward the end of the first half, and he went up for a dunk, and the supports kind of just like went buckled, and of course the game had to stop, and the headmaster, the same one that wanted to shift it. This happened prior to him telling me that we were shifting directions. Was coming down and was going one side of me, down the other. You guys, you teach them to do that. You practice that in drills and practice. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay. And as he's reaming me out, the president of the board of trustees comes down out of the bleachers and says, "This is why I come to these games. I love this." And of course, the headmaster just totally backed off.
Wow.
Yeah.
You Mr. Headmaster, you're definitely fouled for that. Coach didn't teach us how to dunk. You either can or you can't. That's it.
You teaching them how to break backboards and things. How would we finish practice if that was the case? But anyway, it got resolved and we finished that year. But yeah.
So what did you do after that?
Well, it was interesting because you were talking about, when we were talking about, evaluations for college coaches and stuff. So we moved to the Mid-Atlantic, and that's when I was doing my work for Marty Blake, the director of scouting for the NBA. And what made me remember his name when we were talking about that college segment was he would say to me, and I found this very interesting. I shared it with my players moving forward. Is I said he would say to me, "Don't tell me what a player does well, so they can all play. Tell me what do they do that hurts their team." And I always remembered that, and particularly now that I was at a program where we did not have the talent or the talent pool that we had at Maine Central, and well, why aren't I playing more? And I would share that story. I said, it isn't just what you do well, but what do you do? I want you to tell me, what do you do that hurts the team? And of course, for a teenager, that's hard to look yourself in the mirror, but eventually they'd get to it. Well, I'm not, playing team defense, or I'm not sharing the ball, or my shot selection's poor, or my understanding of time scoring situation isn't what it needs to be. But I always remember Marty Blake saying that to me, and I said, you know what, that's really true, and it isn't. Of course, a lot of these things aren't just unique or specific to basketball. I remember going back to Tom Kowski. I remember I was at a 5-star. It was a Nike Invitational, and he's talking to these guys, and somebody at the end, like a little Q&A. What advice would you give these guys? Because these were all blue chip players. And he said, get in the best possible shape you can get in. And this is what I mean about him being a wordsmith. He'd say, because fatigue is the thief of all skill.
Mm.
And you think about it, Glenn. Yes, I mean, when you get tired, you don't shoot the ball as well. You don't get back as well. You don't defend as well. In baseball, when fatigue is in, when you say golf, is that even a sport? When you get tired, you don't play as well. And I'm thinking, there are so many of those things that apply. Just like, okay, I know you do some things well, but what do you do to hurt the team? And I'm not going to bring up about your Giants today, but they had a tough afternoon.
Excuse me, sir. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Okay.
Then you are on cloud nine.
That's right. That's right. Been a
I'm happy
Cowboy
for
fan
Dak.
since
Man, he
1977.
needs a good year.
Definitely. We had some bumps and bruises the last couple of games, so we definitely needed that.
Yeah.
For sure. So 1993, you took over at Severna Park High School, and
You say that well, like a local.
How was that coming from Maine and then evaluating, top prospects, and now you get to a school where, doesn't have the talent pool that you're kind of used to?
Well, and the thing I always say about public schools, regardless of where they're located, unlike private schools where you can go out and actively recruit, you get who comes through the doors.
Right.
And the other thing we had going against us was there are pockets in the country, upstate New York, up by Hobart, out on Long Island, and where we are in Maryland, just lacrosse hotbeds.
That's right.
And I mean, like at our school, they've won 8 straight state championships. And if you're even on the team, even if you don't see the field, if you're on the team, well, if you play for Severna Park, they get scholarship offers just because you wore blue and gold. So we combat that a little bit. But then we had some really good years. School had never won a county championship before. We won 2. No, we did some good things. We had some kids go Division 1, Division 2, a number of Division 3. So, we changed the culture and the climate quite a bit.
Because that's the Coach P effect. That's what you have. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Coach, do you sometimes reflect on having such a legendary coaching career and how many men you helped to become successful in life?
No and yes. I do not reflect on, and I would debate you on a legendary career. But
Coach, I'm gonna stop you right now.
I want to whistle. There you go.
That's right. Miss Pellicani, let them know. Listen, the world knows. This is not a secret. We're here to give you your flowers, Coach. You are definitely one of the country's most legendary coaches, period. You had the #1 prep program in the country. You put, so many guys on the next level. Well, you helped a lot of guys get to the next level and beyond. And a lot of coaches, there's a million coaches, and they can't even say that they had half the success that you had.
Well, thank you. So I retired literally just over a year ago. And in this past year, it's been really very, very heartwarming. The people that have reached out to me, so many players, former players from my Maine Central days. That has been extremely gratifying.
And you celebrated your birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Coach. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Definitely.
Well, I'll tell you what was neat as a youngster growing up in most of New England, and definitely in Maine.
Right.
If November 11th was a weekday, you did not have school.
Right.
So until I went to college, I never went to school on my birthday, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
That's right. And look, Coach, because I remember you showing me this.
Hey, Coach P, Smokey Betts here. Just want to say happy birthday.
Oh, I don't know if you guys could hear that. That was Mookie Betts, and my son was playing golf with him, and said, "Look, would you do this for my dad?" And he says, "Hey, Coach P, Mookie Betts here. Just want to wish you happy birthday."
That's legendary right there.
Well, I told him, I said, "Ben, I'm good. I don't need any other birthday presents. That made my day.
That's right.
I'm
That's
good."
right. That's right. Coach, last question. If you could change one thing about your basketball journey, what would it be and why?
Oh wow, that's a great one. Hmm. That's one I would appreciate a little heads up on. um,
Take your time, Coach. Take your time. It's the last question. Take your time.
well, it was disappointing to see everything that we had built and developed at Maine Central, uh, get changed. But at the same time, I'm not sure what direction and how my son's lives would have been impacted had we stayed there as opposed to coming to the Mid-Atlantic. Um, my one son, my older son, and I did have the honor, and it was an honor to coach both of them in high school.
Mm.
And my older son went to Boston College. First job was with IMG, the sports management company over in London. Then he comes back and he's in the New York Stock Exchange and goes to law school. And now he's a partner of a very big deal law firm. And we're just so proud of that. And my other son is a nationally ranked and recognized golf professional. Um, Although I thoroughly enjoyed Maine Central and the opportunities and the people I got to meet, because because of where we were located, and at that time, everybody flew in and out of Bangor,
Yeah.
and at that time, the last major flight out was at 3 p.m., which is pretty useless because they couldn't go to practice, they couldn't go to open gym, they couldn't go to a game, so they were forced to stay overnight. And we, rather than have them go to a hotel, eat hotel food, my wife would say, well, look, ask them if they like, they're welcome to come have dinner with us. So, I mean, we had Krzyzewski in, for dinner, Boeheim, Massimino. I mean, just Hall of Fame coaches breaking bread, having dinner in our humble little, kitchen. And that was life changing. But yet at the same time, I'm not sure, how everything would have gone, the same for Nick and Ben had we stayed in Pittsfield and not come down to the Mid-Atlantic.
Dinner at your house was legendary. I remember watching the Final Four there, and your wife is such an amazing cook and such a beautiful woman. So salute to your wife for treating us like one of her own and taking care of us to make sure that our stomachs was full and we got the nurturing that we got being away from our moms and everything like that. So
she enjoyed it.
Yeah,
She really enjoyed it.
Definitely. When you get a chance, I want you go and watch this episode that I did about the summer I played for the Mafia, and I found that out in your house. Now you don't remember this. We're watching NCAA tournament, and this is when Lloyd Daniels gets in trouble with that whole expose. And there was a guy that they mentioned, and I'm sitting up and I'm jumping up going, yo, I know that man. And I didn't know until we were sitting in your living room and that ESPN expose came on, and I jumped up and saw the man who we was playing for. And I was like, oh, wow. I was in your living room.
Yeah. Yep. So one last story that you might enjoy, and I hope your listeners enjoy. We were playing the University of Maine JV, It was a Sunday afternoon, and Krzyzewski was in the house, and we didn't have a very good first half. And he had told me, he had told me before the game, he says, Coach, I do not want you to be offended. Please make sure Perry knows I don't want him to be offended. But I can't stay for the second half. I have to catch that 3 o'clock flight out of
There you go.
Bangor.
That's right.
And because he had to get back to, Durham to, get his real team ready. And we did not play well in the first half. It was something like, I don't know, we were down like 21-18 and you guys got to understand, I mean, we were averaging in the hundreds.
Yeah.
And I get home, and this is before cell phones. This is when phone was connected to the wall. Phone rings. I pick it up. It's Coach Krzyzewski. Hey, Coach, congratulations on your win. Coach, I'm confused. You said you had a lead. You didn't miss your flight. He goes, no. He said, I knew as good a defense as you all were playing, because you only held them, they only got 21. He said, I knew it was only a matter of time before the offense was going. And we did. I think we won by 18 or 20 or something. But
definitely,
I remember him calling saying, congratulations. And I was just totally confused. Like, how do you, he goes, no, I knew you were going to win. That's how good any team that Glenn Harden was on, that's how good they were.
And for every team I was on, I always held the best player, on that team, besides Kenny Williams, because Kenny Williams was like 6'11", and we had Perry Carter for that. But other than that, thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. Well, I want to say this for sure. You were such an instrumental part of my life. Me coming from one legendary coach to another, from Bobby Harstein to you, and it was such an easy transition. Your style, you were so hip to everything that was going on, and of course, you was a lot younger then, but you had so much energy. And even though you knew we can score, if we didn't play defense, we didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me, because when I went to college, again, was holding the best players that we played against. So I want to credit that to you. Thank you, Coach. Thank you for being an amazing person, and even a great coach, and even better person. Thank you for accepting me. Thank you for everything you did for all of us, man. I just want to say I love you, and I'll never forget you as long as I live. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. What a great evening, and anyway, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Give my love to the family and the Kingsburys. I know you're watching. I love you guys. Thank you. Salute, Coach.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Wow. Listen, Coach Pellicani is such an amazing man. Y'all have no idea. He's such a humble guy. He's never going to brag on himself. But y'all check the files. Y'all check the stats. Check all the players that play for him. We all love him the same. I guarantee you can't get one person to say one negative thing about this coach. Not one thing about the man. Not one thing about our leader. Because that's what he did. He led us. And he let us know college basketball is a business. He was the first person to let me know that. Let all of us know that it was a business. And he wanted to make sure that we was prepared, and that we was prepared mentally, physically, and that we did our work in the classroom. And like I said, I didn't become a student until I went to MCI. And thank you, Ms. Kingsbury, for sharpening my skills. Taught me a lot of Spanish, which I still don't know to this day, but then definitely. Well, we're about to get out of here. Just want to say to everybody up in Pittsfield, Maine, to the whole Pelicani family, the whole Kingsbury family, I love you. From Basketball Heads, I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding, and you've been watching Basketball Heads live on NYC Basketball Network. That's right. We are the official home for New York City basketball. And as we always do around this time, Peace.